Today's collectible spot, we are having a look at the Comicave Studios Marvel's Iron Man 3, the 1/12 collectible figure of Iron Man Mark 23, codenamed Shades. It's licensed by Play Imaginative and features 75% die-cast metal. The front of the box features an image of Shades, which has a very similar mold to that of, well, not only suit-wise, but also figure-wise, has a very similar mold to, I believe, Shotgun. The back of the box features almost a schematic outline of what the Mark 23 suits will look like. And finally, much like other Comicave Studio releases, you can open up the box panel, front panel, and you have the Mark 23 on the one side, and you've got Shades with his multitude of hands, accessories, and display stand on the other. Spot's going to take himself a break and get this all out of packaging, but when we come back, we're going to get a better look at the Comicave Studios Iron Man 3 Mark 23 Shades. There's more heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. How about the first thing that we have a look at just before we have a look at Shades? We'll first have a look at the display stand that comes with the figure. And the stand itself features Marvel on the top there, Iron Man Mark 23, and Shades on the front placard. On the back side there, we've got Comicave Studios, Marvel.com, Avengers, and Iron Man 3. You'll notice that there's a hole at the top there of the display stand. There's actually one of two different ways that you can display Shades. One of which, he does come with the clear rod that can attach to the back of the display stand, and then from there you can go ahead and add the waist clip, which slides right down the top there, and then this will open and close. You can then display him that way if you so wish, or what you can also do too, slide the waist clip off, take the clear rod completely off, and swap it out for the adjustable neck that also comes included with Shades. Gives you a little more dynamic option if you want to display them in flight mode. Some of the accessories that I'll show you guys in a second will certainly incorporate and lend themselves a little bit better to this sort of display stand. But what you can do though is unscrew the top, slide this through as you would the other one, and actually this one you want to twist to get it down the neck here. Just twist, 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 and then just revisit the top cap there. And you can display it like that. There's also a secondary clip that attaches just on the underside here, like that, and gives you some extra support as well for displaying him. I probably, if anything, will be displaying him in flight mode. That's the same way that I've displayed actually a lot of the Play Imaginative and Comicave Studio releases. I've displayed them in flight mode because there's a lot of really cool accessories, all of which I'll touch base on in a second. So getting a look at the Mark 23 now in hand, he does have a good bit of weight to him because 75% of him is die-cast metal. The die-cast metal, it feels like the torso could be plastic, the lower torso being more the metal, the die-cast metal in the legs and arms. To be honest, I'm not crazy about the deco. That has nothing to do with Comicave Studios for what they've done to the figure, because it's a good, faithful recreation of how he appeared in the movie. I'm just not crazy about the camouflage look, if I could be 100% honest here. For me, Iron Man is always more the reds, the solid golds, the solid silvers. Camo print on Iron Man, I can understand that for certain missions, he might need to be camouflaged in environments that he's in. I'm not super crazy about it, but that says nothing about the figure itself. I love the figure. The figure just is, it's got a good bit of weight to it. It feels solid. It feels like it's got a good construction to it. Not crazy about the deco, but I do love the suit. A closer look on the kind of digital, kind of digitized camo print that's been put on the suit itself. The primary color is almost like a brownish beige, and then it's got layers of almost a dark gray, a green, and brown treatment. They all come together quite nicely. Even if I'm not crazy about the color scheme for being a traditional Iron Man suit, like the small little camo on here is quite nice. Even though the camo makes up the majority of the figure, like the little areas such as the back section here that's in a dark gray. He does have areas on the suit that are breaking up that camo print right underneath the arms, right down the strip of his legs, right at the back section of his knee, and areas such around the foot and the ankle or calf area. It's not 100% camo. At least there's enough other things on there that kind of break it up. But the primary is this beige colored camouflage making up the majority of the suit. So like the contrast between this and the aforementioned shotgun, shotgun had more of a gray and kind of almost like a gold colored treatment, but it basically was like the same similar suit right down to the visor. And this is also a bit of a departure from the other Iron Man suits because he has almost like a motorcycle visor over top of his existing eyes. The visor is not removable per se, but you can also move the visor up to display his eyes. The eyes almost seem a little lost amongst the camo print. It is until, however, you flip the figure around and switch the button on that you can see the projection of light and arc reactor on the front. As a certainly side point to note as well, the light is extremely bright, actually, all things considered, for how small the figure is. I mean, it's projecting a good bright light. The eyes, by contrast, are a little bit lighter. They're a little softer by contrast to the brightness of the arc reactor, but the lights are very bright indeed. And then just to switch them off, just switch the button on the back, and then you can put the visor back down. If you are also wondering how it looks with the visor down, we'll just switch it on again. And you can still see the eyes. They're a little bit more muted by the shade of the shade on his helmet itself, but you can still see the projection of the light of the eyes shining through. So with this being a Comicave Studios release, of course you're going to get a little bit more than just the display stand, the adjustable neck, and the figure itself. You're going to get a lot more accessories than that. Above and beyond the pair of closed fists that Shade is currently sporting, the folks over at Comicave also give you an additional 8 hands. Some hands are flat palms with spread out fingers. Other hands, well actually, here's a good opportunity to show the differences between the two hands. One shows the repulsor blast, as you can see right there. The other one's very similar in design, however they have a slot on the front. And that slot plays a good pivotal role in how you can display Shade as well. Before we touch base on that, you've also got a partially open hand, also showing you the repulsor blast on the inner palms there. And it's also got a couple of other partially open hands also. So those slotted hands, let's get the hands changed out. I'll show you guys how that works. Just want to pop the hand completely off. There is no light that projects through the wrist area, so the other hands that I showed you that had the repulsor blast sadly won't light up, but that's okay. Just pop these off. Then you're going to find the appropriate hands. Of course, thumbs go in. We're going to pop those into place like so. They'll sit right on into the sockets of the ball joints. And then we're going to pop the other hand on there as well. Just like that. Rotate the hands, make sure everything is lined up. There we go. Now with these hands, you'll see again that there are slots right on the palm areas of them. That's because Comicave also gives you a couple of flame attachments, repulsor attachments, or propulsion attachments if you want to look at it like that. And when you attach them, you'll hopefully be able to see there's almost like a T shape. It's not a complete rectangular shape, it's a T shape. That's because you'll have to peg them in a certain way. And we'll just line them up and attach one into the wrist, or into the palm I should say. Take the other one, again lining up, making sure you find the T. And again, that just pegs into place. They are small, so making sure you've got the right peg is more difficult than if it was a larger figure, but very successful nonetheless when you get everything pegged into place. And you give Shade that repelling projection coming out from his hands. What you can also do too is if you flip the figure around to the back, there is that little back section that I was showing you earlier, there's a little slot right on the back side here. He comes with a larger fiery attachment, a projection attachment, and that slides right up into the groove there and comes out the back like this. It's a great way to display the figure. Of course, to display that, you'll want to incorporate, once again, the display stand. The only thing with displaying the display stand, or him on the display stand waist clip, is that through the process of it, you may not be able to fit the back fiery attachment or the back propulsion on his back unless you try to have it a little bit lower. But still, it's a great way to display him. Again, with the adjustable neck, you can display him a little bit higher if you so wish. You can also angle the legs down so it looks like he's actually propelling himself off the ground. When it comes to his posability, Shades has a good level of posability for a figure this size. He does have a ball joint in the top head area of the socket, but then he's got a secondary ball joint that attaches to the stem of the neck. These little shoulder pad areas, by the way, are movable, so when you do move things such as the arms, the shoulder pads do a pretty good job of staying out of the way. These arms also can pivot up and down, or move themselves up and down along a track here, depending on how much extra range you might require from those arms. As for the arms itself, he has a double hinge in the elbow socket area. He's got a rotation via that ball joint that we were looking at earlier. He has an upper torso ball joint. He's got a secondary ball joint that's at the base, right where his waist would reside. As you probably can see too, he's got these little side panels, little side flaps that move around on the leg area, depending on how much extra clearance that you have. Normally the legs would only move left and right and out. However, what you can also do too is pull the legs out further from the socket areas of where the lower torso resides, and then you can get some extra clearance on the leg that you wouldn't normally have gotten. So areas, when you want to have a full kicking forward, or if he's landing, you can certainly accommodate that, where you wouldn't be able to accommodate it without that being there. Move those legs back up. There we go. As for the knees are on a double hinge. The feet are also on a really nice pivot point. A good considerable amount of gap clearance or gap areas that it can make. As you can see, the feet do move out quite considerably. The foot also has its own independent hinge. And as you move, you probably also will see the flaps on the back by his ankles also move out of the way in a similar fashion to what the shoulder pads work. At the end of the day, the Mark 23 is not probably my favorite from the Hall of Armor necessarily. I think by even a contrast, I think I like Shotgun just a little bit more. I love this mold, this design of the suit. I'm not crazy about the camouflage deco again, to be honest, but certainly when we eventually are starting to fill out the ranks as Comicave are releasing more and more of these, it's almost the fact that he is so different from the others, it kind of almost gives him his own charm. On his own, I'm not so crazy about the camo myself, because I'm kind of more of a purist with the red, the golds, and the silvers of what you traditionally would find on an Iron Man suit. But you know what? For that same reason why I'm not as crazy about it is one of the reasons why this figure would certainly stand out when you have it amongst the other 1/12 scale suits. Today's collectible spot, we were having a look at the Comicave Studios Iron Man, the Mark 23. This was the 1/12 scale of Shades. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more collectible spots heading your way. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.